welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back.
It's been a long time since you were last here, and you have done a lot since then. Congratulations
Thank you.
at making your way into Congress. That is exciting.
It's been a long journey.
It has been a long journey, and it has been a fruitful journey as well. People love throwing the firsts at you. Do you ever get tired of having to be the first of everything? People go first refugee, first Somali woman, first woman of color to represent Minnesota. It's just like first.
Sometimes people just add extra firsts that are not real.
First woman named Ilhan to be in Congress. Yes.
Right.
But you are a trailblazer. I mean, just the hijab alone is something that fundamentally changed what Congress was. There was a ban on the hijab for, I think it was over 100 years, apparently.
187 years.
And that changed because of you.
Yeah.
Was there like backlash? Does anyone like look at you and go, does anyone say anything about it? Or was everyone like, yeah, this makes sense?
I mean, so it's interesting because there was a ban on hats and headwear. And what people didn't realize is that it made it unconstitutional to apply it to me because we are supposed to have religious liberty in this country.
Right.
And so it would have applied a religious test. And so lifting it is just upholding our Constitution. And people are like, oh, they did her a favor and all of these people are changing things for her. And it's like, no, we're just following the Constitution.
It does feel like... It does feel like there is a certain tension around the freshman group of Congress people who have come in, after these midterms. You feel a lot of the old guard, especially on the right, terrified of the group. It's yourself, it's Ocasio-Cortez, it's Rashida Tlaib. Like, you have these people where everyone's just going like, they're troublemakers, they're here to cause chaos. Are you there to cause chaos?
I mean, they could hear us coming from afar, and I really believe it. I mean, all of us were ready and are still ready to throw down on behalf of the American people. We're ready to throw down and make sure that we're taking care of health care once and for all, and that we're making sure to get rid of for-profit prisons, and that we're going to cancel out student debt and free young people from, like the shackles of debt.
Wow.
And so Trump and the Republicans could see us coming, and so they shut down the government. And it ended up being this really interestingly, bizarrely scripted scene from like the House of Cards.
Yes.
Except he wasn't as entertaining or strategic as Frank Underwood. And so we're here, like, excited to get sworn into this historic Congress. And we came into another bizarre history because the shutdown we walked into was the first shutdown, not only like the longest, but the first shutdown that was orchestrated by a president of this country.
Oh, that's interesting.
And, you and I come from foreign countries.
Yes.
And so in many of the foreign countries around the world, if a president or a prime minister was to shut down government, there would probably be a vote of no confidence. Mm-hmm. He would no longer be president.
That's interesting.
Right? We're sitting here and we're not holding him accountable for shutting down the government for 35 days and getting nothing out of it.
It does seem like Trump operates under a set of rules that no one else does, and that's
delusional. That's why.
And you haven't been afraid to call him out on that. But let's talk about some of those policies that you spoke about. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest criticisms that you always hear leveled against you and the group of freshmen who have come in generally is that people go, oh, these are lofty ambitions that can't be achieved. America doesn't have the money to cancel student debt. America doesn't have the money for Medicare for all. America just doesn't have the money. How would you propose getting the money to pay for these amazing programs?
America has money. Money isn't. We don't have a problem of scarcity, really. What we have is a problem of moral carriage, right? Our budgets really are supposed to be an example of our moral values.
Right.
And so, this is why I got on the budget committee, because I'm excited to make sure that we have a budget that's reflective of our values. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are prioritizing and funding policies that create positive impact in people's day-to-day lives. Mm-hmm. We have been prioritizing in enriching the wealthy we have given in to caving in, right, like to the powers of special interest. And so we need to make sure that we're holding special interest accountable, that we're getting money out of politics, that we are taxing the uber rich, that the 1% gets to pay their fair share. So this is why we're proposing a marginal tax rate. We want to make sure that the American people recognize government as one that works for them and works on behalf of their interests.
If you've been following the shutdown, for most people the story has been that Democrats and Republicans are now working on a plan to fund border security. And you listen to Nancy Pelosi speak, and it seems like the biggest sticking point is really the wall, but a lot of people agree on the basic fundamentals of giving more money to the border, for border security and improving that. But yourself and a few of your freshman colleagues have come out and you wrote a letter saying, no, we should cut funding to these programs. That's a really controversial stance to take. Why?
I mean, because what we have been doing is that we've just had slush funds to fund private detention centers for young kids who are being put in cages. That is not in line with our values. We want to make sure that every single dollar that we have is used to actually care and provide something that is in line with our values. We have, Minnesota, that's where I come from, it's negative 60 degrees yesterday. We have a homeless crisis. We have people who are freezing. And what we can do with the money that we have is make sure that we're investing $20 billion in providing homes to our homeless folks. That would get rid of homelessness in this country. What we can do is that we can stop the constant increase of our defense budget. Since 9/11, it increased nearly 50%. We have not had that high of an increase in education funding. We haven't had that kind of increase in healthcare funding, right? We don't invest in the things that actually positively impact people, but we are willing to invest in things that give contracts to companies and corporations that benefit from our struggles and our pains. And that's not going to happen under our watch.
Let me ask you this. You're someone who has been very outspoken. You've always spoken your mind. You've always spoken directly to people, voters, your colleagues, etc. And recently, you come under fire for a few of your previous comments.
Recently.
Yeah, but I mean, well, most recently, there was a tweet that you had a while ago criticizing Israel and what how they're handling the crisis in Palestine and in Gaza. And you said, Israel is hypnotizing the world with what they're doing. You apologized after that what you said was really interesting to me in the apology. You said, I apologize for focusing on the semantic argument and clarifying my comments. But I apologize for not making people understand that I was completely not trying to be anti-Semitic and not standing up and fighting against that anti-Semitism. Because, I mean, people who may not know, but the idea of Jewish people hypnotizing anyone is part of the stigma that led to many of them, the Holocaust and many of the hate crimes against them. You apologize for that, but you've still stood fast with your criticism of Israel. You still criticize people that you don't agree with. How do you find that balance between criticizing people and then also not looking like you are condemning mass groups of people as opposed to governments?
Yeah, I was going to say, with that tweet, what I finally realized is the realization that I hope that people come to when we're having a conversation about white privilege. People would be like, I grew up in a poor neighborhood. I can't be privileged. Can you stop saying that? I haven't benefited from my whiteness. And it's like, no, we're talking about systematic, right? And so for me, that happened for me. I was like, do not call me that. That's not what I was doing. And it was like, oh, I see what you're saying now. And so I had to take a deep breath and understand where people were coming from and what point they were trying to make.
Interesting.
Which is what I expect people to do when I'm talking to them, right? About things that impact me or offend me. And what is important in this conversation is that we separate the land, the people, and administrations. When I talk about what we are doing wrong in this country, it's not because I hate this country. It's not because I don't see myself as American. It's because I love this country and because I am American and because I wanted to do better. And so when I talk about places like Saudi Arabia or Israel or even now with Venezuela, I'm not criticizing the people. I'm not criticizing their faith. I'm not criticizing their way of life. What I am criticizing is what's happening at the moment. And I want for there to be accountability so that the government, that administration, that regime can do better, because I believe that we all deserve better, and the human collective requires us to speak up when we see something wrong.
Thank you so much for coming back on. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, everybody.